Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my Tuesday night live in my Facebook group, or if you're watching it on YouTube, welcome there as well, or the podcast where you can also catch my lives and my videos. So tonight I want to talk a bit more about how we can support our gut health and our digestive health. Yesterday was World Digestive Health Day, and so of course the more we're learning, and I'm certainly aware of the importance to take care of not just digestion, but the the gut barrier is really important, and the microbiome. Anything that we can do to support that is really, really important. So tonight I thought I'd take a particular focus of looking at herbs and spices. I think they tend to be overlooked a little bit. We tend to think of them as just adding a little bit of flavouring to our dishes. Sometimes these are often just a bit of garnish on a plate, and we might push them to one side, which I would not suggest that you do. And yet, of course, if you're a herbalist, you would know full well the value of incorporating herbs into your practice. And so adding herbs and spices to the meals that you're cooking is a really great way to really help support your digestive health. And I thought I'd pick out 10 herbs and spices. In fact, there's a couple in here, strictly speaking, that are not herbs and spices, but I like to put them into the category. They're not your bog standard vegetable. And I've included those, and I've gone through these 10 to explain why you should include them to really help take care of your gut. Now, some of these words I'm going to talk about are antioxidants, antivirals, antibacterials, anti-inflammatory. And I'll just briefly explain why these are all important. The gut lining and the gut barrier can become quite inflamed. If there's an imbalance with microbes, then there could be a high level of inflammation going on that could act as an irritant. It could create symptoms. It might hinder the production of metabolites that help to feed good bacteria, because it might impact the gut mucosal barrier if there's inflammation going on, could create more of a diarrhea situation and loose stools. And obviously in much, much more extreme cases, which is going to be very rare, then of course you're moving down more of the inflammatory bowel disease route. But of course I must stress that it is much more rare. But very often I find when I do stool testing, there can be an element of inflammation going on, and we want to get that as low as we possibly can. Antioxidants, just like in the body, antioxidants within the gut, you know, we're always producing damaging free radicals. And if they are not neutralized through antioxidants, then they can damage the cells. And the gut epithelial cells, this barrier, they break down every few days because there's a lot of wear and tear as food goes through. So we want to take care of those cells, make sure there isn't an overproduction of free radicals, which need to be neutralized, hence antioxidants. And then, of course, with the gut microbiome, in its healthiest state, will be mostly made up of really beneficial bacteria in the main. But then we know we can produce and be, so we can be a host. We don't produce, but we can be a host to more pathogenic strains of viruses, parasites, yeast and bacteria. And so I'm going to talk about some of these herbs and spices because of their antimicrobial properties that can help to not only stop some of these taking a hold in the gut, but can help to create more of a balance, may help destroy some of these. So I'm going to go through these 10 in turn now, but I hope that little background is really useful when we start throwing around some of these generalized terms. So number one on my list is turmeric. Now, turmeric has a lot of studies behind it to show how anti-inflammatory it is and what a brilliant antioxidant it is as well. And there are some beliefs that in Asian countries like India, there tends to be a much lower incidence of inflammatory bowel disease. And it is considered that one of the reasons why is because of their high use in their daily diet of turmeric. So turmeric is really wonderful to add into your cooking. Now, it's the active ingredient curcumin or curcumin, the particular compound in turmeric that has those beneficial properties, but it's not well absorbed from the gut into the bloodstream. And that's why we need to cook it with oil. I'd recommend olive oil or coconut oil or just butter. And in Indian cultures, I'd use ghee, and you could use ghee instead. And with black pepper as well. Now, there's a lovely drink that I often recommend to clients where I feel a greater intake of turmeric would be really useful. And it's a drink called golden milk. I do think in the past I've added a golden milk recipe to my Facebook group. So if you're watching it through my Facebook group, you can find it there. If you're watching it on my YouTube channel, then it's Inspired Lifestyle Choices for Women Over 35 is my Facebook group. But you could look up golden milk recipes online. But I would recommend that you do choose one where you make a paste with oil and with black pepper. Sometimes they add ginger as well, and I'll go on and talk about ginger next. And then you can add like a nut milk, like an almond milk, to make a lovely warming drink. May not need it so much through the summer, but it makes a lovely drink to have at any time of day. And of course, you're going to get that lovely curcumin and turmeric from it. Now, number 2 on my list is ginger, another wonderful anti-inflammatory spice. And you may well know, if you're a lady who has ever been pregnant, that ginger is recommended as its anti-nausea. So ladies, younger ladies who are pregnant and get morning sickness, that ginger is often recommended. So you can grate ginger into a tea. What I do every morning is slice lemon, grated ginger, hot water. I start my day with that. It's a really lovely way to get that grated ginger and let that ginger into your diet. I like to add ginger to smoothies, add it to stir fries, add it to soups, casseroles. There's lots of ways you can add ginger into your diet. Number 3 is cinnamon. Now, cinnamon is known to have antiviral and antibacterial properties, helping to protect against pathogens for the microbiome. If you get this imbalance, of course, with too many unwanted pathogens taking a hold in the gut, it creates this situation of what we call dysbiosis, where we get an imbalance between beneficial microbes and pathogenic ones. So cinnamon is a great thing that you can add. It's also anti-inflammatory. Now, I love to sprinkle cinnamon very liberally onto porridge when I make it, and that's a great way to use it. You can use cinnamon in sweet and savory dishes, but porridge, if I have a breakfast of that, is when I like to use it. Number 4 on my list is coriander, whether it's the leaves or the seed. It's antifungal, so cinnamon could be useful to help protect against candida, which can be quite common, a candida overgrowth. And for ladies, it may be why ladies will get thrush. You can get thrush in the mouth as well, but candida, both in the different areas where we have microbiomes, but predominantly we think about it in the stool, to help protect against that. So it's also anti-inflammatory, and it can help with digestive secretions, which are necessary, of course, to digest our food properly, make sure it's all properly broken down. It only helps the gut, but of course, to make sure we get the nutrients from our food, we need proper digestion. So coriander can be good for that. So remember, use both leaves and coriander seeds in your cooking to make sure that you get all the benefits. And of course, the coriander seeds, think about grinding them. You can dry roast them, fry them. So dry fry them, and then grind them into your cooking, just to make sure you're really getting all the nutraceutical benefits from them. Number 5 on my list is parsley, and this is one where it's most definitely not just a garnish. Parsley is known to help relieve the buildup of gas in the body, can help to relieve bad breath. So if you eat a lot of garlic, add chopped parsley to your cooking because it can really help protect against bad breath. Helps to stimulate digestion as well. Known to be an anti-spasmodic. So if you get IBS type symptoms and cramping sensation, it can be very useful. So you can chop parsley over a salad. I have a lovely smoothie, lemon green cleanser, where I use a lot of parsley, fresh parsley that goes into that. Use fresh, not dried parsley here, really. Add it to all types of casseroles and fish dishes, and maybe add to a pesto sauce. Just some ideas for you. Number 6 on my list is mint. Again, overlooked as a really common English herb. And don't just think about adding mint to your Pims, even though it might be very nice. Very good for the gut. Again, antimicrobial properties, protecting against those pesky pathogens in the gut. Helps to relieve indigestion and bloating and gas again. Make a fresh mint tea. Often we think of peppermint tea after a meal, and you might use a peppermint tea bag, but you're going to be much better off growing your own mint leaves and making your own pot of fresh mint tea. That would be really lovely throughout the day, but after a meal, particularly if you have digestive upset. Number 7 on my list is rosemary, another wonderful antimicrobial herb, antifungal and antibacterial. So antifungal, thinking about the yeast, potential candida type overgrowth that may occur. Also helps to relieve indigestion, gas and bloating. And think about adding it with all roasted vegetables. A wonderful way to come home at the end of the day, if you've been working, chopping a load of vegetables, drizzling with olive oil and putting herbs over the top. Rosemary grows really, really well in the garden, although I'm particularly upset, having had the most wonderful rosemary bush in my garden for 20 years that loved the heat last summer, but did not like this freezing cold wet winter that went on for such a long time, and it's died. So I'm a bit upset about my rosemary bush, but I bought a new one. Use fresh rosemary, add it into your roasted dishes, roasted vegetable, or if you eat meat, for your roast meat. And do make sure you eat it and just don't put it to one side. And of course, you can also add it to soups and casserole. Number 8 on my list is oregano. Now, oregano is very well researched as an anti-parasitic, anti-herbal, antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. It's got the most wonderful anti-pathogenic properties. There is a wonderful supplement known as oil of oregano. Often the oregano is grown wild in Turkey. It's supposed to be very, very good. The oils from that oregano, very, very potent. You can buy different strengths of oil of oregano. P73, I think it is one I commonly use from North American Herbs and Spices or Tygon. Be aware that you put a few drops under your tongue and you may not realize it straight away, but boom, you suddenly get this, realize just how potent it is. So don't use too much oil of oregano. You may think it's a great idea to use it as this anti-pathogen, but we have to be careful that we also protect our good bacteria. So don't start using it every day for months at a time. Be careful how you use it, and it's probably best to consult with a practitioner if you're unsure. Maybe invest in stool testing first of all to see what's going on. But oregano as a herb would be wonderful to use. Use it just like you might use in rosemary. Use it in casseroles and soups, other dishes like that. You could put oregano if you're making an omelette. It would be very nice then as well. But just be very careful if you use oil of oregano because of its potency. It really is very, very strong. Number 9 on my list and number 10, these are not strictly herbs and spices, but because of their wonderful digestive and gut support products, I wanted to include them as foods, plant-based foods. First one is rocket. Now, if you suspect that you have digestive insufficiency and digestive difficulty in the stomach is really high up under the rib cage, on the left-hand side. If you feel you struggle with indigestion, feeling of fullness and discomfort, then rocket is known as a bitter food, and it can help to stimulate gastric acid secretion, which is absolutely critical and essential to digest food in the stomach. Very often we think we need to go down stomach acid lowering products, and often that is exactly the wrong thing to do in my experience. But I could guide you on that. A properly trained practitioner could guide you. But if you're a bit unsure, certainly you could start a meal with a small little salad bowl of rocket leaves. You could add some endive, they are bitters as well. Little drizzle, maybe of olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice. Really helps this stimulating of the digestive secretions in the stomach. And it's the site of breaking down our protein foods. So, particularly if you eat a meat and it lays heavy on your stomach, that's a common sign of lacking enough stomach acid, which we lack as we get older. Number 10 on my list is garlic. It's the final one I'm going to talk about tonight. I said I'd give you my top 10. So again, not strictly speaking a herb or spice. It's a vegetable, but we tend to think of it like a herb or spice, really, don't we? Because we use it to add a lot of flavour into our food. But garlic, again, is wonderful for its antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral properties. It's also anti-inflammatory. Use it abundantly in your cooking, as we tend to do. Think about adding parsley alongside it if you're worried about your breath the next day. You can take it in the form of a supplement called allicin. We know that certain pathogenic bacteria, the one that produces methane particularly, has an absolute dislike to allicin, the garlic oil. So I will often add a supplement of allicin, but do use garlic. It is great for protecting against pathogens in the gut. So remember, all herbs and spices have the most wonderful properties. I've today picked out 10 that are very, very good for taking care of your digestive health in all those different ways I've just described. But generally, all herbs and spices have the most wonderful properties to take care overall of your health. Remember, they're not just for flavoring your dishes. They are really, really wonderful, as any herbalist would tell you, for your health, as we used to use herbs before medicines were readily available, and are very well researched to protect in many ways for your health. But just remembering from a gut point of view, the ones I've picked out tonight for the gut and digestion, they can help with digestion. They can help protect the gut from pathogens. They can calm inflammation, and they help to neutralize damaging free radicals that can really protect that very important gut mucosal barrier. So use them in abundance in your cooking for all aspects of your health, but particularly for digestive health. Have a great week, everybody, and see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.